Hey, it's our weekly streaming show, and here's a sneak peek at our top streamer of the week. Go get you some CJ Stroud, rostered in just 20% of Yahoo leagues, coming off a 2-touchdown victory over the Jaguars. He'll face the Steelers this week, so the matchup isn't great, but the Texans are letting their rookie air it out. He's fourth in the league in passing yards, and the offense looks like it's starting to click, so grab him now before he's rostered in every league. Now let's get to the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Most Accurate Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Niles. With me is my excellent co-host, the incomparable Jen Akins. Jen, how's it going, buddy?
It's going okay. I wish I could say it was going better. As I was telling you beforehand, our friend of show Twizzler, my cat, who shows up every now and then during the podcast, is a little down and out right now. So, it's been a rough couple days trying to figure out what's going on with him. But other than that, I'm fine. Fantasy-wise, I'm great. I mean, this last week was really was fun. I mean, for me, I pretty much won in all my leagues. So
that's awesome.
And it was a high-scoring. It was kind of a fun week. So
look, the Dolphins put up 70. It's a good day. It's a good day.
My sister and my brother-in-law, my nephew were there, and it was sweet. As you guys know, I mean, I grew up a Dolphin fan, and my dad passed away, and he was a huge so. My sister has inherited his season tickets. So I just love that. She's at the game and in the seats that we sat in when I grew up, and she still has those same seats. And it's fun to see the Dolphins actually be good again. It's been a few decades.
It's been a long time. Well, welcome everyone to our weekly streamer show where we highlight the quarterbacks, tight ends, kickers, and team defenses you should be targeting as streaming options for the upcoming week. We see you in the chat. Thank you for joining us. We will get to some questions here in just a little bit. We will definitely answer those. We see you. But throughout September, we've been discussing some players to target in Underdogs Battle Royale and the Mini Royale tournaments they have before we dig into the streaming options. Think of these contests like DFS and GPP tournaments, except instead of doing salary cap, you actually do a snake draft, which is a lot of fun. We're looking for unique but not too contrarian players that are in great spots for success. My guy this week that I'm going for is Jakobi Meyers. I don't know how under the radar he is, but he's definitely not being drafted high in these tournaments. He's the wide receiver 2 for the Raiders, but he missed week 2, but he's had 2 games. Each game he's had double-digit targets. He's had plenty of fantasy points. He had 981, 2 touchdowns in week 1. Last week, no touchdowns, but 7 catches, 85 yards. And you look at the Chargers this week, that matchup this week, the wide receiver 2s against the Chargers have put up 8.2, 9.1, and 9.8 fantasy points in the last 3 weeks. So the Chargers giving up a lot of passing yardage, passing points, and not all of it just to the wide receiver 1. So Jakobi Meyers is my kind of under the radar option in these tournament play. How about you, Jen?
I'm going to give you mine in a second. Before I get to that, I feel bad because I babbled on about my cat and I didn't even ask you how you were. So I just want to make sure. Are you good today, Brandon?
I'm doing okay. I'm worried about Twizzler, to be honest. I
feel bad. I completely skipped hey, how you doing? I just babbled about my cat and then we went into the show. But
that's okay. That's okay.
I feel bad.
Prayers up for Twizzler. So
prayers up for Twizzler, but I'm glad you're well. My player for the Underdog Battle Royale this week is Evan Engram in London versus Atlanta. The Jags, historically, they smash in London for some reason, right? I mean, the Blake Bortles days, like we see it, it's good. So Evan Engram, Atlanta is also 30th in tight end adjusted fantasy points allowed, which, by the way, that is now live. Our stat adjusted fantasy points allowed is now live through the first 4 weeks of the season, so we can actually use that.
I love it.
Yeah, they're 30th this season at defending tight ends. And there's only 6 teams that draft in these Royales. So I feel like Engram, he's not like an under the radar guy, but he may not be in the top 6 as far as being drafted. So you can dig a little deeper and grab Engram.
Excellent. I love it. And for anyone who's not a member at 4for4 and can't access that adjusted fantasy points allowed tool, go right now to 4for4.com/plans. Use the promo code YouTube. You save 25% off any subscription. It's well worth it. That app alone is probably the thing I quote the most in things that I do for the site and things I do every day too. I'm just wandering around talking to people and quoting AFPA. It's what I do. So before we get into streaming options, let's hit a few questions here. We had a few before we got in there, so I'm just going to go in the order in which we've got them. Hello, YZZZZZ7Z only has a 16-team roster. Should they drop Dalton Schultz for another tight end? Jen, I'm going to let you answer this one. Are you dropping Dalton Schultz in streaming, or are you sticking with him?
I think it depends on who's on your waiver wire. If it's pretty bare, then I would hang on to Schultz, but he really hasn't been anything fantastic. So there probably is a better option out there for you, which I will get to the ones in a little bit when we get there.
Excellent. Sounds good. Chase Wellner, thanks for showing up. The Hurtin at wide receiver wants to know if they should trade Deontay Johnson and TJ Moore for T. Higgins. I would say hurry up and make that trade before the T. Higgins manager won't do it anymore. That's what I would do. I'm a big fan of T. Higgins. I like DJ Moore a lot, but that Bears offense is awful. And Deontay's hurt. You never know that Steelers offense. I think I would make that trade to upgrade at Higgins. What do you think, Jen?
I really like Deontay Johnson. I mean, we don't know the extent of his, it's a hamstring, right? So he will be back, but it could linger. DJ Moore is he's done. In my mind, I just don't see the Bears all of a sudden having this huge turnaround. Like the player, don't like the team. Higgins, those guys will turn it around. So I'm in for that.
Excellent. Mark wants to know if they should drop Justin Fields for CJ Stroud. I hate to drop Justin Fields, but it's hard to keep trotting him out there. So if I'm not rostering two quarterbacks, I'd probably rather have Stroud.
Yeah, my dead weight report came out this morning, and I really wanted to put Fields in there. I put him in the on thin ice category, but really, I think he's droppable. It's tough, because you keep waiting you're like, okay, the rushing upside, it's there, but he looks bad. They look bad. CJ Stroud does not look bad, so I don't hate that.
Yeah. Stephen Smith traded Keenan Allen and Kyron Williams for Christian McCaffrey and Jalen Waddle. I think that's a smash. I love that. I think that's going to work out well for you, Stephen. Although I like all four players involved there.
Yeah.
B-Ball Luke, Joshua Palmer, or Tank Dell. To me, that's Tank Dell. I just think Quentin Johnston kind of muddies the waters there for Joshua Palmer, and I think Dell clearly has a role there. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I agree. I don't hate Joshua Palmer, though. I think that with Williams out, he's going to get some work. That is a high-scoring offense. But if just in a vacuum between the two, I pick Dell.
Okay. Jonah wants to know if they should trade Amon-Ra St. Brown and Dalvin Cook for Travis Etienne and DeAndre Hopkins. They've got Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, and their wide receivers are Justin Jefferson and Chris Godwin. So trying to get a running back upgrade by using Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm very indifferent to that trade. I like Travis Etienne just fine. Amon-Ra St. Brown's probably my favorite player in that trade. So what do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I think that Dalvin is not worth anything, to be honest. So you're looking at, Amon-Ra is clearly the best guy in that trade. Etienne is fine. I feel like, unfortunately, you're stuck with Henry and Najee, who are both underperforming right now. So I don't know. I don't know if I would give up Amon-Ra, honestly, for that. I think I'd probably keep and just hope you can score on another running back later on, or Let's
hope. Maybe you can grab somebody off waivers. Maybe a chance out there you can give everything for. I don't know. Eric wants to know if they should start Javonte Williams. Let's see here. Miles Sanders, Alvin Kamara. They need two. That's a tough one, Jen. I don't know. Which one do you sit between Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and Alvin Kamara?
I think you have to start Javonte against the Bears. The other two, I don't know.
Sanders goes up against I
can't remember either. That's why I was like, I hope you know.
I just read this. What have I done? I just wrote like a whole thing about Minnesota. So you gotta
so you
kind of got to start Miles Sanders against Minnesota. I guess you wait and see with Alvin Kamara. It's tough. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is he? I don't know if they're going to ease him in. How that's going to work? He's not coming back from an injury, obviously, but he, who knows what kind of football shape he's in. So they may ease him in there as well. So maybe Javonte and Sanders. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I guess so. Fantasy Football Ninja, Tank Dell, or Calvin Ridley. To me, like you said, Jacksonville goes off in London, so I'd go with Calvin Ridley as long as his health is fine. He's kind of nicked up right now, so make sure you watch the injury report there. Fantasy Football 101, Josh Palmer, worth a high waiver. It depends how bad you need a receiver, but I probably wouldn't spend a lot of money on him.
Yeah, I don't know about a high waiver. But if there's nobody else that you need, for example, if a chain or anyone else like that is not available, and you're just, it's if it's all you, basically, if you have a high waiver spot, or because it seems like when you say high waiver, I'm guessing that your league does not use Fab and you're using just an actual
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if that's the guy you need to round out your lineup, then sure.
Yeah, but I wouldn't use that high waiver if you don't need to put him in your lineup this week. So yeah, that makes sense. Fantasy Football Ninja trade Ramondre Stevenson for Devon Chan. I don't know. I think both are going to have inconsistent roles in their offenses. The Patriots offense sure looks bad. So I might rather a Chan for the upside there, but I don't know. Ramondre's going to figure it out at some point. What do you think, Jen?
It's tough. I mean, we saw this monster week, and then, I mean, we just don't know what's going to happen from here. I mean, clearly he's going to have a role, right? You don't put the toothpaste back after he busts out 4 touchdowns and 200 plus yards. So he's going to be involved, but Mostert is definitely involved as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to have Waddle back, and they're not going to be in a situation where they're steamrolling a team like they were steamrolling the Broncos, and they were just running and running and running. So I don't think we're going to see that kind of usage or that kind of output from the rookie this moving forward. But I don't even remember, what was the original question. Oh, to trade him for Ramondre. I'm just going on and on about him. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah. Kevin S., thank you so much for your super chat. We really appreciate you. Kevin wants to know a lowish cost to acquire wide receiver that you think is going to make some noise. This is a boring name, so I don't know if it's not. He said his wide receiver room bores him.
Yeah.
I don't know if this will cure your boredom, but if you're looking for a low-cost receiver in any format, like Adam Thielen is quietly doing well. He's got 2 good weeks in a row, seems to have a rapport with both quarterbacks, and they got the Vikings this weekend. So the Vikings give up tons of points. Revenge game. Like, I don't know. If you could go get Adam Thielen for probably nothing, he might even be on waivers. Like, I would grab Thielen. Jen, do you have another receiver that might be low cost and interesting?
I mean, yeah, but he's not sexy either. But Josh Downs is someone that I would maybe try to get. Colts, he seems to have a good rapport with both Minshew and Richardson, and I'm sure he's pretty cheap to get as well. So he's someone I would probably, not sexy, but he is low cost, and he might be, provide a mild excitement from your boring wide receiver room.
Those Colts wide receivers combined for 30 targets last week with Gardner Minshew. So they're finding the receivers this year, not something that was the case last year. Last year it was all running back dump offs and things like that. The receivers are actually getting looks here, which I love. Let's just thank you again very much, Kevin. Let's see here. We had another quick question. Should we drop take Bigsby to stash Jameson Williams? If you've got lots of running backs, sure. Otherwise, I don't really care. I don't think Jameson Williams is. I don't think Jameson Williams is the league winner that we're hoping he's going to be. He's already been hurt, suspended, inconsistent, and not really used. That's kind of been his thing. He might turn into a star. Loved him coming out of college, but I don't know. If you need, depends on what you need to stash, but I don't think either player is going to be like super useful for you.
Yeah, so. I think Bigsby is. I mean, unfortunately, he's not what we thought he was going to be, at least not yet. He may come on down the stretch, but yeah.
Look, we're going to hit actually some streamers here, and then we can get back to some more questions.
Get to the show.
Yep. Hi, Jamie. Thank you very much for joining. We see you there. Thanks for saying hello. So let's start. As a reminder, we only discuss the streaming option if they're available in 40% or less of Yahoo leagues. So if your favorite option isn't discussed, they're probably rostered in too many leagues. It's kind of a bad week to stream quarterback. I'm going to be honest with you. CJ Stroud is a good option, but is not a great matchup. So there's not really that combination of available quarterback, high upside, good matchup. It's just not really existing this week. So, like even Josh Dobbs, who's putting up some decent numbers, has the 49ers, and Baker Mayfield, who's been okay until last night, has the Saints. So you're not really looking at Sam Howell, who I still like despite his terrible performance this weekend. He's got the Eagles. I don't want to start Sam Howell against the Eagles. So, but if you can't get Stroud, Andy Dalton, we talked about the Vikings and how easy they are to throw against. Check to make sure Bryce Young is out again. I think that he's leaning toward being out, but make sure you check that injury report. Vikings have allowed the QB1, QB4, and QB13 through 3 weeks. That's each week. That QB 13 was Baker Mayfield. Dalton threw a pair of touchdowns, 361 yards. I think this game could be relatively high scoring considering the Panthers are involved. So I kind of like Dalton. He's rostered in only 2% of leagues, and he was the QB7 last week. So kind of like that. And then the other thing, I don't know how long you can wait to decide on this because Jimmy Garoppolo is in concussion protocol right now, but it's another matchup situation. The Raiders don't really have a problem letting Jimmy Garoppolo throw the ball. Chargers are giving up huge, big passing numbers every week, seem to be in shootouts. Raiders seem happy to let him sling it. They got Devontae Adams. They got Jakobi Meyers. I like both of them this week. So, if you're desperate and you can afford to wait a couple days, then maybe grab Jimmy Garoppolo late once we figure that out. But those are my quarterback options. Again, I kind of hope you don't have to stream quarterback this week. But if you need to, those are some ones to go after. And really, it's CJ Stroud and so what do you think, Jen? Anyone I'm missing?
Yeah, it's funny what Jamie just put up. Jameis Winston. I think he's someone that we can possibly stream with Carr out. He's always fun. Fantasy realm. He's either going to get you 300 yards and 3 touchdowns or 4 picks and a disaster. So
that Tampa defense makes me think it's going to be the latter, but we'll see. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Not a terrible option to think about Winston. So Jen, the most important question that I ask anyone every week.
Yes.
To you, with all the seriousness and gravity that it deserves, is it a good week to stream tight ends?
It's a medium week to stream tight ends. It's it's a medium week. We'll get to kicker where I find that it's a less than medium week, but for tight ends, it's decent. I mean, I give it a 5.5 out of 10 as far as the streaming.
That's not bad.
It's not the worst. It's not the best. All the good guys that we've kind of been rostering are now or streaming are now above the threshold. So we're getting a little lower in the pecking order. However, we've got some good ones. First guy is Luke Musgrave, which I know someone just asked about in the chat. But he is my number one streamer this week. He is playing against the Lions, and he's only 19% rostered at the moment. He's the tight end 4 right now in half PPR points through, or half PPR points per game, I should say, through the first 3 weeks. So, I mean,
getting targets.
Yeah. He caught 6 of 8 balls last week. The Lions are 29th in adjusted fantasy points allowed to tight ends. So Luke Musgrave is, he's the best option out there, honestly, in the streaming world this week for people that are under 40% rostered. Second guy, he's not sexy, but we have to keep trotting him out there, and that's Zach Ertz. He's playing against San Francisco. Not the greatest of matchups for him, but he is only 37% rostered. He is still the tight end 1 for now. Trey McBride might take over at some point, but he is still getting the most targets, and you got to think the Cardinals are going to be playing from behind, so they're going to be throwing, so targeting Zach Ertz. So he's my second streamer there. Third guy is kind of a combination depending on who plays. It's Logan Thomas / Cole Turner. So it is insert Commanders tight end. Logan Thomas is 4% rostered. Cole Turner is 0, which once again is a lie because I have him on 2 rosters. So I never understand why they say
a rounding thing. It's probably a rounding thing. It's probably
right.
0.4.
Like maybe I'm the only one in the Yahoo universe that has him, but I do have him on 2 teams. But anyway, Thomas is in concussion protocol, so it's one of those things. He'll probably be back a week. I don't know how this week. Tough to tell. Eagles are surprisingly 23rd against the tight end. They're giving up 10.4 half PPR points per game to tight ends. So could do worse, with one of those 2 guys. So yeah, Logan Thomas or Cole Turner. Problem is you're going to have to wait, but I don't think that people are going to be clamoring for either one of those. So they may be available in a couple days when we know a little more about Logan Thomas.
Excellent. Luke Musgrave. He's going to be rostered in too many leagues at some point. We're going to have to stop talking about him, but yeah, I love this kid. It's so much fun to watch him. Plus he's an Oregon State guy. He's getting targets. I'm excited. Yeah.
I mean, right now he's at 19%. So he's got a little way to go to reach that threshold, but it might happen this week. We'll have to see.
Let's answer just a couple more questions here before we get into kickers. Fantasy Football 101, should I bench Breece Hall and DeAndre Hopkins? I'm okay taking a wait-and-see approach with Breece Hall and probably DeAndre Hopkins, too. That's really matchup-based for me. The Titans' offense is struggling right now. So I think it's okay if you've got other options. I'm fine.
I don't love either one, but it just depends on your roster.
Yep. Eric Figueroa says tips and tricks for their 12-person roster, full PPR. They have Trevor Lawrence. They have Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra, Calvin Ridley, TJ Hawkinson. Looks like they've got good players on the bench. I don't know that I would do much. The next time Nico Collins and Alvin Kamara have a big game, maybe try to package them together to get an upgrade at running back. But other than that, I think you're probably in pretty good shape. So.
Yeah, I think you're fine. I think Trevor Lawrence, don't panic. I think he's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people are panicking with that, but I think he's going to be fine.
Yep, absolutely. JP wants to know if there's any value in the Titans offensive players. The IDP players are outperforming them, and it's tough, Jay. You got to think Derrick Henry will get around at some point, but yeah, I'm probably not starting them very often unless it's a really good matchup. So, oof. I'm going to say, Jen, the other very important question that matters every single week, is it a good week to stream kickers?
It's not great. A lot of the kickers that we've been successful streaming for the first couple of weeks are now over the threshold. You know, Jake Moody, Brandon Aubrey, like those were my staples for the first couple of weeks that were crushing it, and they are now appropriately owned or rostered everywhere. So unfortunately, not great. But I will give you some options. I have them. Number one, it's a revenge week for Matt Gay. So he's there, right? He is only 9% rostered. He is playing his former Rams at home in a dome in Indy. He was kicker 1 last week with 24 fantasy points. The Colts are favored by 1.5. So it's a little more than a pick 'em, but basically a pick 'em. And they are projected to score 23.25 points. So Matt Gay he kind of edges out the other streamers just based on the revenge and just, he's coming off a great week. Let's do it. So Colts that.
Colts offense is kind of fun. It's
fun. I mean, it's going to be, it should be a decent week. I have the other side of that. Brett Maher was actually in my streaming column. He doesn't make this because he's not in the top 3, but he is in like the top 5 streamers. So you can really take either side of that kicker wise. I think it should be all right. Second guy I have, it's pretty cringy just because he's on the Broncos offense, but Will Lutz going to Chicago. He's only 5% rostered. The Bears have allowed an average of 35 points a game right now through 3 weeks.
Awful. They're so bad. 35
points. I feel like Lutz, he's going to get an opportunity. I mean, the Broncos are horrible. Yes, they gave up 70 points, but they also scored 20, on the Dolphins. So they're not horrible. I think it's a good week for Lutz to kind of get right-ish. Broncos are favored by 3.5, and they have a 25-point implied team total. So, Lutz, if you need him, he's there. He's out there on 95% of rosters. So I think you could do a lot worse. Let's put it that way.
That game was so bad. Do you just kind of throw it out from an analysis perspective? Like it's hard to imagine that.
I think it depends, right, on your situation. Like if you're the Broncos, you have to take the small little things like, hey, we scored 20 points, which actually for them is a lot. Like I think their average was 17 last season.
And 7 was on a punt return.
I mean, but yeah. So I mean, you got to take the little things. I was so bad. Like I can't even believe that Vance Joseph was on the plane on the way back. Like I think they should have left him there. They actually should have never rehired him when he was already the coach there. But that's a whole different story. So yeah, it was ugly. But so anyway, my third kicker, I talked about the Jags in London, their success. Got to go with Brandon McManus this week.
Nice.
He's 33% rostered. Jags in London seem to do something over there when they go across the pond. So they're 3-point favorites over the Falcons, and they have a 23.25 implied team total. So he's there if you need him. Like I said, it's not the most fantastic week to stream kickers, but I think those 3 guys should be serviceable at least.
Nice. I like it. Hello, Mr. Scampers. Thanks for joining us again. It's always nice to see you in the chat. Before we get to the defense streamers, I want to take a minute to talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Go to prizepicks.com/accurate and use code accurate for a first deposit match up to $100. For week 4, I'm eyeing Lamar Jackson at less than 213.5 passing yards against that tough Browns defense. That's a low passing yardage for me to want to go less than. But Jackson's been held under that number in 2 out of the 3 games this season. And he only had 120 yards on 16 pass attempts against Cleveland last year. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. So not a lot of obvious picks this week, but that's one I'm eyeing. How about you, Jen?
I am going with my boy James Cook, more than 56.5 rushing yards. He's averaging 89 yards a game so far through 3 contests. The Dolphins are allowing the 6th most rushing yards this season. They're averaging 112.3 that they're giving up. So James Cook, I could see him getting more than 56.5.
Excellent. Hopefully in a loss. That's what I'm going to say.
Listen, I love James Cook, but yes, I would like the Dolphins to win with James Cook crushing it along the way.
I like the touches James Cook is getting. It's fun to watch him. He seems to be the guy.
Yeah, and no one gave him credit as the guy all summer. He's never going to be the lead back there. He's too small. Blah blah blah. And it's like, and listen, I mean, we all have whatever, but a lot of people were anti James Cook. I was not one of them though.
He looks good. He looks good, Jen. Don't forget to go to prizepicks.com/accurate. Use code accurate for that first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. So back to streaming, defense streaming. Again, not really a great week. It's kind of a theme. This is the first week that I think, Jen, this year where we've been kind of lukewarm on the streaming options. I will say I like the Buccaneers. I think they actually did a pretty good job against the Eagles, despite losing the game. But they get the Saints with Jameis Winston, who, let's just say, is turnover prone, right? They're the defense special team 5 in Yahoo leagues right now. They're only rostered in 28%. They have one of the best run defenses out there. Really good defensive line. Shaq Barrett rushes the passer as good as anybody. Nice young secondary. Saints are 25th in points scored and tied for 4th in sacks allowed. So I think that the Bucs are probably your best option. Number 2, the Colts aren't bad. They're the defense 6 right now. They did a good job against the Ravens. Last week, the Bengals forced 2 picks last night. The Bengals forced 2 picks.
That is last week, though.
It is. Yeah, it is. So the Colts get the Rams. I don't love this matchup, but I like the matchup enough. And the Colts, they did a really good job against Baltimore. They've looked pretty good on defense. So I don't hate that. And then, honestly, there's not a third team, but I like to throw a third team out there. So if you have to, I don't hate the Cardinals against the 49ers. I kind of think the 49ers are going to definitely win this game. But I could see this being a little more low scoring than we think. The Cardinals are the defense special teams 8 right now. They're playing aggressively, opportunistically. Division games are always crazy. They're always a little weird. So I don't know if you have to, but really, Buccaneers or Colts, don't go the other ways. I thought about Denver. I just can't recommend Denver after giving up 70 points. I just can't. I can't do it. So outside of that, but so really Buccaneers Colts. That's kind of where I'm going. Anyone I'm forgetting, Jen?
I don't know. I didn't do any research. That's your department.
I know in your daily newsletter you mentioned the Broncos, so I wanted to bring up the Broncos. So
let me see. You know what? That was yesterday's news. I got to remember what I did. Who else did I have in there? Gosh. Okay.
So the Broncos are the one that stood out for me.
I had the Bengals against the Titans. And I had the Texans against the Steelers. That is who I had. And I honestly don't even remember writing that, but that's what I wrote. So I obviously believed it at the time.
You can justify some of that. I think that's okay. So I think that'll work out well. Nice. Jory Matthews wants to know if they should trade A.J. Brown and George Kittle for Bijan Robinson and Pat Freiermuth. I'd probably stick with A.J. Brown and George Kittle personally, but I don't hate it. What do you think, Jen?
I mean, if you're really in a bind for running back, which I'm guessing you are, then I would be okay with it. But I just like A.J. Brown so much. And I think Kittle is, he's good. And I would stay put. But if you happen to have, if you're looking at you happen to have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Diggs, or, if you have better wide receivers than A.J. Brown and you really need a running back, then you can do that.
I'm also not positive you have to do the tight end swap there. I feel like if they need a receiver, but maybe that's their motivation there. I don't know. Stephen Smith wants to know if they should trade Jalen Waddle and Nico Collins for A.J. Brown. I would hang on to Waddle, but I don't hate the trade. A.J. Brown's great. I don't know. I might hang on to Waddle and Collins. Both of those guys are useful in your lineup, and I don't think Waddle to A.J. Brown is that big of an upgrade once Waddle comes back healthy.
No, and Collins is a good depth guy to have for those bye weeks. So I would probably stay put.
Okay, excellent. So Jen, I'm always
Yeah.
looking ahead to the next week and beyond. When I'm setting waiver wire claims tonight, who are some secret stash players I should be looking at this week for our secret stash segment?
Secret stash. So I always give you guys one secret stash for next week specific, and then I give you secret stashes for the weeks ahead. The secret stash I have for next week is the Washington Commanders defense. They get the Bears in week 5, and they've been pretty good this season. So they're somebody that, let's see, I don't know if I wrote down they're 30% rostered. So they're out there. And I mean, stash them now and then trot them out next week. You'll be loving life there. And then I threw 2 guys together, kind of for future reference. First guy is Rico Dowdle, running back for the Cowboys. He's only 3% rostered. He had 3 touches in week 2. He had 7 touches last week. He's a really nice compliment to Tony Pollard right now. And they have a really good schedule coming up right before their week 7 bye. So he may start to get, a little more work as we move forward. They may start to rest Pollard. Not now, but when they get closer to the playoffs, that kind of thing. So Dowdle's, if you have the room on your bench, grab him now, stash him, and God forbid Pollard gets hurt, he's got standalone value there.
Yeah.
So him, and then the second guy I have is a wide receiver, WanDale Robinson. He's only 2% rostered. Yes, the Giants are kind of an enigma right now, and they're easing him back from a torn ACL, but he was only on the field for 11 snaps and he had 5 targets. Like, that shows that they want to get him involved, right? So I think that's a really good sign for the future there for WanDale Robinson. Grab him now while he's, available in 98% of Yahoo leagues. Once those bye weeks start to roll in and you're going to need depth to fill in, he may come on strong. I mean, I think that's kind of nuts, right? He had 11 snaps and he saw 5 targets in that. I mean, they're easing him in, but they gave him a lot of work. So
consistent with last year. When he played last year, he was a target hog. They liked throwing the ball to him. They liked trying to manufacture ways to give them the ball in space, which is really awesome. So I love it. Jen. Let's hear Jamie. Jamie says all the defenses against the Bears have been great. You're not wrong, Jamie. You're not wrong at all. It's absolutely worth considering. Dave Eric wants to know if Kamara's back to being a weekly top 10 now that he's back on the field. Theoretically, I kind of want to see it first, so I'm not rushing out there, but I'd probably flex him if I need to this week. So let's hear JP in their Dynasty League has Isaiah Pacheco, David Montgomery, Kyron Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Kenneth Gainwell. Needs a top wide receiver. Trading Gainwell. Gainwell had more value 2 weeks ago, I think, than he does now because DeAndre Swift looks really, really good. Might just use that trade bait. Maybe once again, I might target Adam Thielen because Adam Thielen is somebody that has really low dynasty trade value and is a valuable player to put in your lineup. So he's getting targets. That's probably who I would target. Somebody might bank on the upside of Gainwell. We'll see. But I think DeAndre Swift has kind of made Gainwell's value tank a lot. Matt Cash. Hey, Brandon and Jed, I traded Mostert and Godwin for ETN. What do you think? Guess I overpaid a bit, but I thought it was decent. Long-term, Mostert probably doesn't have the value that he's had. So I'm okay with that deal. I think you gave up Godwin, which is he's a good player, but I think ETN's probably the best player in the trade. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, Mostert has been great, but you've got obviously Devin Achane, and then now you have Jeff Wilson will be back. So I don't know that he's going to get, the volume that he's had. So I don't hate that at all. I think it's fine.
Excellent. Let's see here. I don't know. I think we've got everything. Am I forgetting something this week, Jen? I almost forgot our stash section last week.
You did. I guess we've got another question flashed up here.
Okay, let's hit one more question and then we'll set it go. Dave Eric, is it safe to get rid of Rashad Bateman or Elijah Moore for someone like Tank Dell? I give you permission to get rid of Rashad Bateman and Elijah Moore, and especially for Tank Dell.
Yes, Rashad Bateman was in my dead weight report this morning. Came out. He is droppable, and it's sad because I know Brandon. I know you're a fan.
I love Bateman, but
a lot of people are, but he's just not. I mean, Odell Beckham with Odell Beckham out, he didn't. He didn't really get the targets.
I'd like to see him in a new environment and see if something happens on a little more pass-happy team. But it's certainly disappointing. So
no, he definitely deserves a shot to be on another team. But unfortunately, I mean, I hate to use the term injury prone, but like he just keeps getting injured and nothing's it's tough.
Hey, Joe Castles, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for the tip. Looking to trade Raheem Mostert, who would you recommend? I mean, the trade value should be pretty high right now. Look for a team that has lots of receivers to try to buy low on someone like Derrick Henry. That's what I would do. What do you think, Jen?
It depends on what you need back. Like Brandon said, if you're looking, if there's a team that has a lot of wide receivers, there's plenty of guys that you could get for Mostert, especially after this past week's performance. I think now is the time to sell Mostert if you're going to.
Mm-hmm.
He might end up on a lower, you might get lower talent back on the way back. But maybe I'm trying to think of receiver wise. Maybe
you might be able to get someone in the T. Higgins realm. It'd be a buy low thing.
I was going to say
for a buy low.
I was going to say Ayuk or Lockett, somewhere in that range.
Yep, absolutely. Let's see here. We've got a bunch of questions here at the end. We'll try to hit a couple more. Should we start Luke Musgrave over Darren Waller? That's a tough one. I probably still go Waller, but you could talk me into that.
I have Waller on 2 teams, so I feel your pain there. Fantasy Football Ninja. He's been brutal, and I really, really thought this year was going to be fantastic for him. I thought he was going to be Daniel Jones's boy. I thought he was going to be the target leader in that offense, which he still may be. It's just that offense is not performing as we would have liked. So, I could talk myself into Musgrave over Waller.
Yeah, no, that's tough. I'm surprised by my answer there. My gut says Waller, but I think about it.
I actually don't have another option on my Waller team, so I will probably be either streaming or rolling out Waller again and just hope this is the week.
Rob Wright, Tank Dell, or Nico Collins rest of season. I'm still on Nico Collins there, but I like both.
Yeah, I think I like both as well, but I think Nico, I would prefer Nico. Yeah. But I don't hate. I mean, if you have one of the, if you have Dell, I wouldn't go acquire Nico, but if you have them both and you have to, Nico for me.
Yep. Jay, I think Achan will have a role. We'll see what happens when Waddle's in the lineup. Jamie, thanks again for listening. Would you rather stream Chiefs defense versus the Jets or Broncos versus the Bears? I just think the Chiefs are a better defense, and the Jets also stink. So to me, the Chiefs are the definite option there.
Yeah, if you asked me this question like 3 weeks ago, I would have said Broncos.
Me too.
But they're not looking as good as they were advertised on paper or what they should be. So I think it's Chiefs because, like you said, I think they're a better defense right now.
Yep. All right, everyone. Let's wrap it up. Thank you, Jen. Always a pleasure. Any final thoughts before we go?
No. Thanks everyone for joining in. Week 4. Here we go. Hopefully we get another high scoring, fun week.
Hopefully. Yeah, it was a fun one. It was definitely a fun week. Thank you, everyone in the chat who joined us. Always appreciate your support and having you here. Thank you, listeners. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. We're here every Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So come join us throughout the season live on the 4for4 YouTube channel to discuss streamers that get you through your season. You can follow us on Twitter at Jen Akins NFL and at 2GuysBrandon. Thanks for checking us out and have a good day.